And now it's time to welcome our champion. Here he comes, Mr. Patrick Chapin.
In 2014, I was testing with the Pantheon for Pro Tour Atlanta, which was a Journey into Nick's block constructed. And it was a very famously mid-rangey format. And we figured out pretty quickly that it was going to be a little slower and that it had some unique elements to it where there weren't very many playable one-drops. And there were a couple, but it was really tough because you also really heavily relied on tap lands for mana fixing. The mana requirements were pretty steep, so it was very difficult to build a deck that wasn't green. Because if you played only two colors, it was tough to get enough fixing. And if you played three colors, there's just no way you could do it really without having access to something like Sylvan Caryatid. But I mean, it was possible. So basically, we figured out that it was kind of interesting, the idea of just playing with powerful cards, because it didn't really seem like, other than the enchantment theme, which you could do, and in theory, you could play a heroic deck, but for the most part, it seemed like all our decks that were any good were just collections of good cards in three colors. The default deck to beat was believed to be Naya, kind of like if you just throw the first cards that come together, like the first cards you think of, you get this Naya deck that's quite good, and that was kind of like the pace setter. There, the green was like Sylvan Caryatid and Courser of Crufix. The red was like Stormbreath Dragon, and the white was like Elspeth, Sun's Champion. The team they tried a lot of combinations of stuff, but they ended up gravitating towards a Sultai deck that was like, I guess, a control deck where they really liked black for Hero's Downfall and Thoughtseize, and they liked blue for Prognostic Sphinx and Dissolve. So like everybody kind of agreed that there are good cards in every color, but you can only really play three colors. I actually, as an experiment, just started going through every possible combination, seeing what would it look like. And I made a three-color deck on paper of literally every possible combination, all 10, because it was just like, well, what if we just, like, what does it look like to play all the best cards of the colors? Reed Duke was actually, I appreciate him humoring me, because a lot of the other people were like, obviously you can't just play Mardu. Why would you? But I was still sketching out Mardu, because I was like, I'll build everything. Eventually, the Abzan list, it was a weird one. It eventually became to this Abzan list that was like, what does it look like to even play black, green, white in this format without it being constellations? Everybody had assumed that it was the enchantment deck, the constellation deck, but the real breakthrough was the realization that I could just play Fleecemane Lion as a removal spell. Because like the bottleneck in the format was the lack of cheap removal. Like there's just very few ways to, there's a million plays you can make that are good at three or more, but there's very few good two mana plays. And the realization that Fleecemane Lion was like the best cheap removal spell was just, that was the thing that really brought the whole deck together. And to a lesser degree, Brimaz is a 3-drop. I immediately started having incredible success against both the Naya deck and the Sultai deck. And nobody else on the team ended up playing the deck because I think they were concerned that it was like too much of a metagame call against literally the testing house. But I also thought that Sultai was going to be one of the most popular decks, and that a lot of other people were going to arrive at that conclusion in order to beat Naya, which proved prescient. In the tournament itself, it was the Pro Tour that I feel like I had the best edge on deck ever. And it's very lucky to get lucky when you've got the best edge on deck. It's like a very convenient time to get lucky. And I think that if we were going to like play the Pro Tour all over again, over and over again, like I actually think I probably outright win somewhere between like 3 and 5% of the time, which doesn't sound like a lot, but is actually huge. Like you have to get extreme, 5% is such unbelievable odds. So, but I think that I think I might win 5% of the time. I don't know. The deck was very much a very streamlined, almost all 4-ofs. Fleecemane Lion and Sylvan Caryatid is sort of the best things you could do for 2 mana. And Thought Seize, sort of the best thing you could do for 2 mana because of Thought Seizing on turn 2 and playing a second tap land. Like this is a format with 12, you play 12 temples, Temple of Malady, Temple of Plenty, and Temple of Silence. The other breakthrough, by the way, the other breakthrough of the deck, playing 4 mana confluences. Some of the people on the team ended up playing multiple mana confluences in their Sultai deck, but I think in retrospect, everybody kind of wishes they had just played 4, just because the format, because it's so mid-rangey, you end up the life total loss isn't nearly as punishing as having one too many tap lands. Brimaz, King of Oreskis, Courser of Prefix, and Hero's Downfall being the best things you can do for 3 mana. And then Silence the Believers and Pelukranos, World Leader, being the best things you can do for 4 mana. And Elspeth, Sun's Champion at the top was just because it's like arguably the best card in the format. And then ended up rounding out the deck, which was all rares at that point, all rares and mythics, with just 1 Banishing Light and 1 Read the Bones for curve considerations. But the biggest thing of note with the sideboard is the semi-transformational aspect. Being able to board in Boon Satyr and Arbor Colossus in order to be more aggressive in certain matchups. That ended up being pretty great. As for the tournament itself, kind of steamrolled the Swiss. I just started winning early and kept winning. In the top 8 itself, had a bunch of matches that sure were amazing to be in my spot, because definitely got lucky in some. I mean, my match against Jamie was pretty tight, but it ended up being, back and forth and some good games, but definitely it was the match against Raptor that I think was the one that is most memorable, where against Josh Utterlayton, I kept a 1 temple draw, but we end up in a spot where Josh Thought Seizes me, in the first turn, and I only have 1 land, and I had to temple Scry to the bottom, but without, I just effortlessly draw a basic that I need so that I can drop a 2-drop on turn 2. And then he Thought Seizes me again. He's kind of mana screwed, though. He only has 2 swamps, but I just natural the next perfect basic land so that I'm curving out. And the roar, it was one of those times where you're sitting there playing in the feature match area, and when I draw the card, everybody starts roaring so much that Josh just smiles because he already knows what it's hitting for. Like people would not have been going that nuts if I hadn't just top decked the perfect land again,
Another land.
So it's not like there's anything really too much to it, because it's not like, I mean, it's obviously the right call to keep the hand, even though it's only 1 land. Like the odds of how it's going to play out when you've got 3 2-drops, of how it's, of what it look, as long as you get like 1 thing going, if I get 1 land, and as long as it's not a swamp, I'll be in pretty good shape. But even if it is a swamp, one of my, I've got Sylvan Caryatid as one of the 2-drops. So I think it was actually an easy keep, just because it's like Sylvan Caryatid, Fleece Mainline, another 2-drop, Brimaz. So it's like 1 land, it's all going to come together. But and then it just, of course, I scry to the bottom when it's not a land, and then go runner, hit the perfect lands so that I come out as fast and as aggressive as possible and just steamroll over him where he can't even play a spell. So it's not like it was actually a good game. It was just a very, very exciting moment when it's so high leverage, and to keep a 1 land hand, and he knows that I've got nothing, which I think really added to the experience. The fact that he Thought Seizes me, sees I'm on air, and just has, that I'm just hoping to draw land so that he gets to just share in the moment of how lucky I am. That was a pretty good one. And then obviously my match in the finals ended up going my way. Nam played great, but it was absolutely incredible. I mean, I've been playing for a long time, and to finally actually win a pro tour, it was every bit as awesome as I ever dreamt it would be, Oh, the feeling also of just all my teammates rushing, like cheering, and that, I mean, I still remember the look on Huey's face, William Jensen giving me the, just sort of this respect nod, that it was just like, hell yeah. So I'm doing a Kickstarter for my third Magic book. I've been working on it for a while and super excited. It's basically a three books in one. It's a strategy guide with all of the updated rules and examples, but it's also everything that the game is about now being covered, which includes a lot of different formats, a lot of styles of play, and the game being balanced around different things these days. It also includes a breakdown of every kind of strategy of the last 12 years and all the big tournaments, as well as there's a history of Magic, like stories from every year from before Magic even came out to today. So like of what it was like to be there and with the most entertaining and interesting and memorable stories from every year of the game's history. And super excited about it. Been able to collaborate with a whole bunch of awesome masters, like just to name a few: Seth Manfield and Reed Duke and Gabriel Nassif and Sam Black and Michael Flores and a ton more. Patrick Sullivan, all kinds of amazing people writing about their areas of discipline and mastery and specialty. So it's the Magic book I always wish existed, and you can check it out at next-level-magic-forever. If you want to follow the campaign, you can click to be notified of updates. It would really help a lot. And I hope you check it out because it's an awesome one. It was a real joy to write, and I think people are going to really enjoy it.